also share next steps as well. But let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Will Moss. I'm actually the CEO and founder of HBCU Connect. I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with my name and my organization after all of the invites and the emails that we sent to get you prepared for this event. So welcome. We're very excited to have you. And let's go ahead and get right into the event. So quickly, I like to go over the agenda, do some quick housekeeping. Like I said, we're going to focus on the WebXT team this evening. So please don't forget to keep yourself on mute and also keep your video off. Once I start to introduce the Microsoft team, they will be turning on their video and their audio to talk about their experiences and share, information about their opportunities with you tonight. So please keep your audio and video off. But for the agenda, first, I'm going to do a quick welcome for myself. I'm going to then introduce you to our keynote speaker. And then I'm going to introduce you to the different team members that have volunteered their time to talk about the Web Experiences team and what they do and the opportunities that are available. Then we'll have a quick panel discussion, a live Q&A, and then we will end the event. So if you do have questions during the presentation, feel free to use the Microsoft Teams chat to ask those questions. But like I said, please keep the audio off and the video off so we can focus on the Microsoft team. So a little bit about myself. Like I said, my name is Will Moss. HBCUconnect.com is the organization that I run. We're the largest organization of students and graduates from HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. We started partnering with Microsoft about almost 10 years ago. And about 8 years ago, we started to partner on recruitment events with Microsoft because the challenge was, how do we make sure that African-American professional candidates, not just students, but professional candidates, get a chance to meet with the hiring managers within Microsoft, get a chance to meet with the recruitment team, get a chance to meet with members of the team that they can relate to, that are either individual contributors or, like I said, managers that are looking to hire more diverse talent for roles in engineering, program management, and more. So that challenge was presented to us about 8 years ago. We came up with the idea of doing specific events for Microsoft to connect with African-American talent. Did our first event, like I said, about 8 years ago, and we've been doing events like this ever since. And then last year, once COVID-19 hit, of course, we decided to not do the events physically, but to do these events virtually. And kudos to Microsoft for not only continuing with their commitment to hire diverse candidates, but also we went from doing maybe 4 or 5 events a year to now we're doing more than 10 to 15 events a year, if not more than that. Now that we're doing these events virtually. So I want to thank you guys for joining us, for making these events possible. You're going to learn a lot about the WebXT team this evening, meet some of the team members. So I want to say welcome. Now, for those of you that are just now logging in, please remember to turn your video off and also to make sure you're on mute. And we'll go ahead and get started with our keynote speaker. So our keynote speaker is Rukmini Iyer. So Rukmini, if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll hand it over to you. So just let me know when you'd like me to move forward with the slides.
Move slides, yeah. Thank you, Will. And so it's a real pleasure to be here. And I would have much rather that I was there in person so that I can actually take live questions and meet you all in person. But here we are in COVID times. And the one benefit, of course, of COVID times is, I have to wear a nice top, but I'm wearing slacks underneath and you don't have to see it. So let's start with, I'll start with the personal introduction. So if you go to the next slide and the slide after that. I'm a corporate vice president at Microsoft in the WebXT team. But outside of work, this is me. These are the 5 people that I talk to at least once a week. My daughter and son are both in college. So like many of you have just graduated from college, my son is a junior in Santa Barbara, and my daughter just started her freshman year at UCLA. So I saw her navigate the whole COVID times for someone who graduates out of high school no prom event, no really any high school celebrations, to no dorm in UCLA. And so she's at an apartment in LA and figuring things out. That's my 82-year-old mother. She calls me once every weekend and reminds me to eat well. And I think she has stopped telling me to work hard because I think she's figured out that I work hard. And then my spouse and my dog, those are the people that live with me right now. My spouse, my biggest supporter, and my dog that actually he looks pretty cool in this picture, but he's a complete doofus. We are trying to train him he's a rescue. We just got him during COVID. We're trying to train him to fetch a ball. And we throw the ball, he runs super fast, he's a pit bull, runs super fast to the ball and then stops at the ball and then comes back without the ball. So then I walk over to the ball and I have to pick it up. So he's getting me to fetch the ball right now. So that's me. And if you go to the next slide, I started with my LinkedIn profile and realized that it's too busy. So I kind of discretized my profile into three. I've been working for close to 25, 28 years now. And I started in Mumbai, India. I did my bachelor's in electrical engineering, and I came to the US to do my master's and a PhD. I was dead set on getting a PhD. And I recently talked to my son who said, he wants to change, he's doing physics and he wants to do something slightly different. And I told him I saw my first computer in my junior year. Until then, I wasn't really interested in computer science. And in my senior year, I got really interested in AI. And I didn't really have access to a computer. So there's this warehouse near my university where they had a workstation. And at 8 p.m., the workstation would be freed up. And so they said, if you want to use that workstation after 8 p.m., go ahead and use it. So for 6 months, I worked from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's how I learned how to use a computer. And if you click on the next, Will, yeah. So the thing I'll tell you is, I learned Turbo C in my bachelor's. And then when I came to Boston, they handed me a Unix workstation and said, here's a set of code and go figure this out. And so I learned C and C++ in grad school from my mentors and my colleagues and my professor, and I took some courses. And then I worked in the industry for another 10 years. And I'll tell you, when I came to Yahoo, their online system was in Perl, so I learned Perl.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I don't see any slides.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay. Will, you're muted.
I can see the slides.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was muted. I'm going back to mute.
Okay. If you can't see the slides, I can send you the slides, Bobby. Okay. So yeah. So I learned Java at Yahoo. Yahoo was just getting on with Hadoop. I built their first distributed machine learning trainer at Yahoo, and I learned Hadoop and Pig there. And then I came to Microsoft. I actually didn't know C#. I had not used a Windows machine until I came to Microsoft. And so at Microsoft, I learned a whole bunch of set of new skills, new coding languages. I lost my Perl. I still program the fastest at Perl, but nobody uses it here at Microsoft. And on the technology side, I did my PhD in statistical modeling and NLP. And for 10 years, I worked in the AI R&D space. And through the course of that, I learned, machine experimentation, distributed learning. And then when I came to Microsoft, I think I really transformed from being a technologist to someone who knows what it is to run a business, to own a product, and to do fundamental technology. And so I picked up deep learning at Microsoft. And I'm actually right now very interested in causality, but it's work in progress because it's a hard area and you've got to spend time working on problems in the area before you pick it up. The main message I wanted to give is, a lot of my skills I actually picked up as I was working. And so the ability to learn on the job is is probably the most critical and fundamental skill that you need. And the second thing that, if you see from this slide, is that I picked up really business and product skills at Microsoft. So, fundamentally, my breadth really grew at Microsoft. And why is that? And so that's part of the talk that I wanted to give to you. Will, I lost the slide, or maybe I didn't. It went down there. Okay, I can see it. If you go to the next slide. So why did Microsoft really work for me in terms of not just technology? And I actually joined Microsoft purely for technology, but from a product and a business perspective, because it comes down to Microsoft's kind of core mission. Their mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. The success for Microsoft comes from not from direct monetization of users or direct we don't sell things directly. We build things that other people and other organizations use, and when they're successful, we are successful. And so that mission essentially fundamentally transforms you from somebody who needs to build technology that others can build upon. And so your customer success becomes key to your own success. And the Microsoft culture, when I joined, it was a know-it-all culture, and they were very proud of it. It's an engineering organization. It was built by engineers, and left, right, wherever I turn, there are very deep technology folks around you, and they're know-it-alls, and they expect you to know it all. And the transformation that Satya Nadella has really brought about is something that really fit me well. Like, I'm someone who learns, and he said, I really want, first he started with this concept of the growth mindset, which many of you must have heard already. And then he described that the growth mindset, he couldn't really get the message through. And then he said, I want you guys to move from a know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all culture. And that, I think one phrase really brought it up, that's what he wants. The growth mindset, while it's a fundamental psychology, he's really saying that, we have to be agile and learn on the go. The second big thing that has happened in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years is managers at Microsoft always had, a really clear idea of how to grow teams, how to coach people, but they have really started training managers on what we call a model coach care. You model the behaviors you want to see, you coach your folks, you're a servant leader, and you care. And I think have never been more true during the COVID period, when you actually, that coach and care piece has been fundamental for us to keep our teams together, focused on a mission, and still, making sure that self-care is taken care of, and people who need the time off can take the time off. So I think the manager expectations, the manager culture has really evolved, and the leadership principles. Again, we have had the same set of leadership principles for a couple of years. You bring clarity to the problems you're facing. You bring clarity to the problems you're seeing. You bring energy, and you're accountable. So if you promise something, you deliver on it. And I'd say these 3 fundamental pieces of our culture have been really critical for transforming Microsoft in the last 5 or 6 years. If you go to the next slide, Will. So what is WebXT? WebXT actually stands for Web Experiences and Technology. And it's an organization that has really come together, that's pulling together at fundamental services that require the web to function. And when I look at fundamental services, and I've listed a few of them here, you need a browser, you need search, you need maps, you need feeds, so news, shopping, we can think of weather, finance. You need apps, and you need advertising. So advertising, is a horizontal block under all of these services. And so we pull together all these organizations together, and one of the reasons we pull these together is, we think that there is a lot of synergy across these organizations, and you will see that, and my colleagues will talk about their teams, and you'll see and hear that in their talks. But the bigger one was, I think there needs to be multiple players in search, multiple players in browsers, multiple map providers. If society has to thrive, We need to make the web work for our consumers. And for the web to work for consumers, we need to have very strong competitive players in each of these spaces. We cannot let only one person dominate the space. And so we pull together this organization, and I think something magical is going on in the organization. We are building lots of great technology, and then we are hiring. So we have lots of open positions. So if you go to the next slide, I talk about, I talk about actually the key thing that I want to bring out here is the end user is our mission. So when we say we want to make the web work for you, our metrics focus on customer success. You can build it out, Will. We are probably the biggest organization inside Microsoft that develops AI, develops and deploys state-of-the-art AI globally. So we are in 100+ markets. We are not afraid to explore new ways of communicating to the user. So, you will see that we will come out with new ways of doing search, new ways of browsing, new ways of doing feeds. And all of these areas, as we know, they all require improvements. And the biggest cultural change that we have seen is that we work as one team. So if you have an idea that crosses, you're working in the search organization, but you want to do something that crosses with feeds and needs some support from the browser, experiment away because we're functioning as one team. If you go to the next slide, I talk about the roles that we are hiring for. So we are hiring software engineers, data and AI scientists, product managers and designers, and you'll hear from my colleagues in many of these spaces. And we are hiring across locations. So we are hiring in Redmond, Bay Area, and Atlanta. And one thing I forgot to mention, I'm based in the Bay Area. So I've been 10 years at Microsoft, and I've worked out of the Bay Area. And my colleague Bruce, who's also here, he's also in the Bay Area. And we're just opening an Atlanta office. So if you're interested in the Atlanta office, just let the recruiter know that you're also interested in that office. And one thing I want to bring out is that obviously we are looking for technically savvy software engineers and a qualified data scientist. But I really think that we want to change the perspective of the type of people that we are hiring. So if you go to the next slide, I talk about some of the fundamental things that I see around me that we need more of. We need technologists who are product focused. So who are really trying to communicate to make the product work better. We need AI scientists who are customer obsessed. So it's not just about building the biggest deep learning models or solving really hard problems, but are we solving fundamental customer problems? We need project managers who are forward looking. As I said, we are not going to be afraid of changing how we communicate with the user or how we work with businesses. So we need project managers. You won't see the types of things that we want to build. They may not be around us. So we have to innovate in that space. And then we want designers who are empathetic. So while we are looking for key technology skills, I think we really want to change the culture around us to have software engineers and scientists and project managers who bring some of these skills out. And I'm really looking forward to the interest from this group to see what you can bring to our organization. So let's go ahead and meet the rest of the team. So we are going to spend 5 minutes talking to team members here, and I'll take questions at the very end if you have questions for me.
Actually, can I ask you before you go?
Yeah.
Can I ask you, can you give us sort of a picture of what you do within your role? So what is a day in the life like for you? Talk about your title and kind of how you got into that role.
Yeah.
I think that would be very helpful from a context.
Sure. So when I started Microsoft and before Microsoft, I always really wanted to be, I'm a technical problem solver. So I like working on problems. So I really wanted to be an individual contributor. I never really focused on management roles. So if you see even at Yahoo, initially I built some machine learning models, then I did distributed machine learning. When I came to Microsoft, I actually worked on incubation projects. Now I think my role has evolved to, I manage about 350, 400 people. We own most of the advertising solutions. So it's fundamentally like very deep AI technology that's in production. So you have to be both software savvy as well as AI savvy, and you have got to keep up with the state of the art. So I would say half my day is just people and processes, and are things getting done, and are they getting done with the quality that we want to see. And the other half of my day is probably spent on experimentation and metrics most of the time. So we run thousands of experiments, and you've got to decide between these experiments which ones are working, which ones we're going to take forward. And I think Bruce will talk about this a little bit. And then what happens when you have so many engineers working on a problem is that they will figure how to optimize the hell out of a metric. So you need to develop a new metric that will challenge them to the next level. And so I spend a lot of time, and my engineers, they hate me for it, because just when they have gotten to, within spitting distance of the target for an existing metric, I'll tell them, but this metric really doesn't solve this user problem. And so I think we need to evolve it. And the metric now looks a lot more challenging. And so I'd say, that's how my day goes, like experiments, analytics, product analytics, and then half the time on people and processes.
And one question that I'm going to ask all of the team members is, and so you'll be the first. One of my favorite questions to ask is, what is it that you like most about working for Microsoft for you personally?
So I'd say that when I started, it was clearly the technology. So Microsoft has, because it's an engineering organization, they really had, and Bing actually was one of the few that had really large access to large amounts of data. A/B experimentation, was in a very robust place at Bing. AI, between the WebXT team and Microsoft Research, there are a lot of close collaborations. And so AI it's really state-of-the-art AI at Microsoft. And so those are the things that attracted me to Microsoft. But I'd say I'm at Microsoft because of the new things that they taught me, and that's specifically about product. Once I started thinking about not the technology, but who the product serves, then my entire thinking shifted to not just, building something that is more accurate or solves some metrics, but who are the customers for whom my product doesn't work. For instance, I think this is my 4th year working on small businesses. How do I reduce the friction for small businesses to bring their marketing online? So the product and how disciplined Microsoft is about the business. Fundamentally, those are the things that are still keeping me here, that the culture of bringing technology, product, and business together, I think it's one of the unique places to do it. And I think the way they do it is also not ad hoc. There's, it's a seasoned approach. So you learn a lot just watching leaders like Satya, as they take the steps in cloud or as they take the next steps in gaming, you learn a lot.
Excellent. Well, thank you for agreeing to Keynote and for sharing your time and experiences. I hope you'll be able to hang on for our
yes,
panel
definitely.
discussion. Okay, thank you. So with that, I'll introduce our next speaker and team member, Shawn Lindersay. So Shawn, if you're ready.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
Thanks for organizing this, Will and Rukmini. That was an amazing introduction. I want to join Microsoft after that. It has been a really amazing sort of 5-6 years of very significant change at the company, and I've been pretty excited to be part of that. So a little bit about me. I work on the Edge team, the Edge browser. I've been at Microsoft for a little over 21 years. I'd like to say my career is now old enough to drink, though between you and me, it's been drinking for a while, but we won't get into that. So I'm originally from Trinidad, but actually I was born in Nigeria. I spent first 12 years of my life there and lived in a bunch of other places, finishing off high school in Trinidad, which is where my dad's from, and then came to the US for college and pretty much was recruited out of college to Microsoft, where in my ongoing plan to stay only 2 years, at Microsoft, I have been failing on a regular basis. So at this time, probably pretty locked in at this point. Kind of love the company. I love what we do. So I work on the browser, been on the browser in various forms for nearly half my career at this point. Worked on a bunch of other related technologies. I am a PM. We call them program managers. Most other companies call them product managers. There's long, ongoing, fascinating debate about exactly what that all means. But at the end of the day, if you call it a product manager, it's probably what we call a program manager, or we just say PM to make it simple. I work on Edge, which is a browser. About 2.5 years ago, we started on a pretty insane project to throw away the browser we've been building for the previous 20 years and rebuild on top of Chromium, which was a pretty amazing shift for us as a company. It's an interesting internal discussion to say, hey, we're going to shift over to this open source project that is, not only controlled by one of our largest competitors, but that's actually been a really, really positive shift for us. It allows us to focus less on sort of keeping up with the same web engine and actually contribute into Chromium. We have folks on the team that have made a number of contributions to Chromium, making the web better in general for everyone who uses a Chromium-based browser. A lot of accessibility stuff recently was been work we've been driving. And then in shifting to Chromium, we've been able to invest in other things, in a better user experience, and better integration across platforms, better mobile browser, things like that. In my current role, I focus on the enterprise, making sure that we have the best enterprise product browser on the planet. And I also have I lead the security team, which is for all customers, just keeping the browser secure for everyone. We're actually hiring for all of those positions, as well as many others. I'm particularly joined in on this month because we have just began our expansion to Atlanta, which I'm personally very, very excited about. I love the city. I have, my best man in college went to Howard, and I loved it there. And so we are hiring enterprise cloud services team. We're hiring security researchers in Atlanta, and we're hoping to expand further over time. So, of course, if we are hiring elsewhere as well, mostly for our team in Redmond, though we have a large team in China, if you feel like working there, and we have a large team in Hyderabad, India as well. So we're pretty spread out across the globe at this point. But I'm excited. We've just literally opened up, 20 new positions in Atlanta. We're hiring fast and kind of growing those teams. So looking forward to hearing from you folks, and thank you again for giving us the time to talk to you.
So if I could follow up with a couple of questions about your experience. So how did you, when you first started at Microsoft, were you a college hire?
I was, yep.
And did you go straight into program management?
I did, and that was actually one of the things I loved about Microsoft. There are a lot of companies that, hey, you got to work as an engineer for a number of years first before you can become a PM. But we actually hire people out of college to be PMs, and I found that to be, pretty amazing experience, great experience for me, kind of thrown into it. But also the people that we continue to hire and bring in out of college. It's one of the places where I think we get to have the most lowercase diversity in terms of experiences. We bring in people. Most people are reasonably technical, but certainly not all of them by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, we're actually quite proud of the fact that we hire directly into program management out of college. And so for those, because a lot of times, for the different teams within Microsoft, they're program managers, right? But the teams do a variety of different things or work on different services or products. So can you talk a little bit about what it's like to be a program manager or PM on the WebEx team, and specifically, on the products that you work on? Sure. Like sort of a day in a life. Yeah. So one of the reasons I joined Microsoft way back in the day was I had this idea of it's like working on a lot of different startups in a giant company, and I can move around a lot. And I've certainly taken advantage of that. The current team on is my 8th team at Microsoft. and I've tried lots of different things: PowerPoint, networking, email technology. I've worked in the Bing team, and the day-to-day can be very different depending on where you work. But the core skill sets that we look for in program managers tend to be pretty much the same, which is, passion for building better technology, deep customer empathy, what we now call growth mindset, though we use different words, but essentially the ability to enter a new space, reorient, rethink, and in general just figure out what the right thing is to do, maybe given limited information. So in every job that I've been in, that's what it's kind of been like. And even, I used to say that program manager is a job that I was, obviously born to do. I don't know, I can't imagine a job that I wouldn't love as much. I get to go as deep in the technology with the engineers. I get to mix up in business strategy. Even junior folks are engaged thinking about the business strategy. I get to engage with customers and talk to customers. I get to bring that all together. So one day I might be writing a spec, or I might be building a power presentation. The next day I might be in a user research conversation, actually hearing from real customers where they're telling me what they like and don't like. I'm showing a new feature maybe. I might be in an NDA conversation with a customer, showing them something way ahead of time before its opportunity. I might be in a strategy conversation with business development about what should I how should we partner with this other company. So it really varies. There's no such thing in my mind as a day in the life. And to be honest, it's why I love the job. It gets me up, it gets me excited every morning. It may not be, maybe stressful. There's no lack of stress and pressure that might come along with it, but I'm never bored. Absolutely never bored in my job.
And that kind of leads to my last question I wanted to ask. Like I said, I'll ask everyone, and that is, what is it that you like most about working for Microsoft, and maybe specifically since you've been on a variety of teams on the WebXT team? What is it that you like most?
So I've always loved the breadth of impact that Microsoft has. We touch people in a variety of ways around the world. We're one of the few companies that is an enterprise company and a consumer company and a developer company. So as a company, we touch people in so many different ways. And as an employee, I'm proud of that, but it also gives me opportunity to be like, oh, I'm kind of bored with this browser thing. I'm going to go make a game now or something. And I can, go and join that team and work on Xbox or in one of our game studios or something like that. I still have to interview, but at least that opportunity still exists. In the last, 5 years, I have been very proud of how Microsoft's culture has changed, the kinds of company we are. I think of us as having sort of transitioned through that kind of rough adolescent period and into kind of a mature adulthood where we know who we are, we know what kind of company we want to be, and the kind of impact we're having on the world that isn't just through software and technology, but through initiatives that we do around the world, the trainings that we've supported, our positions on very important issues of social justice in this country and in the countries around the world. Been very proud of the company's position on those things. So that those, even over and above like what I like, the technology and the fun stuff that I do every day, I'm honestly proud to be part of the company. I will say that hasn't always been true. There've been, moments in our past where I haven't been as excited, but certainly in the last, 5-6 years, I've been truly proud of part of the company and part of this set of people working to, unlock the passion of and the potential of everybody in the world. Did I get our tagline correct? Pretty close.
No, that was great. Thank you. So really appreciate you taking the time to kind of volunteer your experiences and share with everyone on the call. So with that, I'll ask that you hang around for our panel discussion, and then I'll introduce our next speaker. Okay, thanks, Shawn. So our next speaker is Rob Fry. So Rob, if you're ready, I will pass the virtual.
I am ready. Hey, thanks, Will.
Yep.
Yeah, so hi, everybody. I'm Rob Fry. I'm a design director here in WebXT. So a little bit different background, a little bit different experience than the previous two. But we all work together on this There's kind of a big set of folks with multiple disciplines on the product teams. I'm originally from Southern California. I lived in Southern California for the first 30 years of my life. Went to design school at a state school down there. And after school, I kind of worked sort of odd design jobs, worked for a number of different companies. I worked as a freelancer for a while. Eventually my freelance work kind of scaled up to the point where I needed to start hiring people. And that ended up being kind of a boutique web design and development agency that I led for a number of years. That work led me to a client, actually. It was a startup up here in the Seattle area, formed mostly of former Microsoft people. And after working with them as a client for a couple of years, they offered me a position to come lead their UX design efforts in their startup. They were growing really quickly. They had funding. And so I did it. It was time for a change. I came up here. We did that for a couple of years and then ran out of money. So a pretty classic startup story. But we were literally across the street from Microsoft, and most of the people I worked at were former Microsoft. And so I leaned in on my little network there. And that's how I ended up at Microsoft. I started as a vendor. Design vendor, and then managed to transition that into a job as a designer, FDE designer, and then became a design manager, and now I'm a design director, which basically means I'm a manager of design managers. And so that's sort of my quick story. I've been here at Microsoft for about 8 years, 8.5 years. I've worked on ads and search and Windows. I've worked on the browser with Shawn actually a couple of different times, and a few other places, mostly having to do with the web. I've been kind of in the web sphere at Microsoft for quite a while, even before it was called WebXT. Right. Did you have any questions for me, Will, before we go on to my slides?
No, I'll just I'll defer to your flow, and
Awesome.
At the end I may have a couple follow-up questions.
Cool. So I'm a designer, so I had to put some nice looking slides into this deck. So if you can go to the next one, Will. Like I said, I am a design director on the what's called the WXC, the Web Experiences Collective. And you can think of us as the design studio for WebXT. We're a horizontal team of designers, user researchers, front-end engineers who are very customer obsessed. We're sort of a horizontal team, so we support all of the various different product verticals. So like you mentioned that we have search, news, maps, browser, and ads are kind of our primary product verticals. The design studio spans across all of this. Go to the next slide. So we're creatives primarily, and our canvas is the web. Our customers are basically everybody. Everybody uses the web, right? Like we all do this. This is a core part of everybody's life, and so we effectively are just designing products for people, designing products for the world. And next slide. It's this idea that the web is like a universal platform that I think makes this this job really interesting as a designer. Like, you know, a lot of people working in this field in tech have the opportunity to design for particular platforms, like a particular app on iOS, or maybe they design the Windows operating system, or maybe you know, when we're working on WebXT, we can design across all the platforms. So everything runs the web, and we're there. And the web is also a playground. You heard earlier that we do a lot of experimentation at WebXT, and that makes our jobs as designers very interesting, because it means that we can have ideas and we can try them quick. We can get data back really quickly, and so we can always learn. And for me, it's been a really fascinating career journey working as a designer in this kind of environment, because it sort of strips all of the ego out of the process, right? Like we have ideas, we try them, we get data back, and we're usually wrong. I would say like probably 90% of our experiments fail, and that's awesome, right? Because we can learn really quickly and we can continue to get better.
Is that something that you actually worked on, or is
this thing? It's actually from the Edge browser team. This is I just love this GIF. This is a little game that comes up if your browser's offline.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Surfing the web game. We get to have fun sometimes in our products. It's one of the benefits of being on the design team. Yeah, so next product. So yeah, anyway, really quickly, whether it's building the next great web browser, like Shawn just talked about, whether it's helping people make informed decisions about the next election, something we worked on a lot in search and news. Whether it's helping people give back to causes that they care about. We have a new program that we're working on called Bing Gives Back, where you can like earn money for charities that you care about just by searching the web. or whether it's helping people find stuff at work. That's something that one of my teams works on. And so just finding things within a company can be as hard as finding things out in the world, and we're trying to solve that too. Next slide. So on our team, whoa, my font didn't come through on your deck. I will just tell you what my title said here.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. It said, on our team, you'll help us push the boundaries of the web. So if you are interested in design, if you are interested in user research, if you're interested in front-end development for prototyping purposes, or for, we actually have a team that works on an adaptive interface system called Fast Web Components as well. These things are all within the studio. We are hiring. I put a link here for, this is just a search on the Microsoft Careers website that will pull up whatever jobs we have at the moment. When I made this slide a couple of days ago, those were the jobs that were listed, but we're always adding, we are always hiring, and we're always looking for really interesting candidates that bring a unique perspective. One of the things that we do as designers is we are the advocates for our customers, right? And we are better when we are like our customers, when we see our customers in ourselves. And so we need people, we need the most diverse possible workforce we can get. And so like this is our goal. We want to hire. So thank you.
So I got a quick follow-up question, because
yes.
So by trade, I'm a software engineer, but my first job for years, I was a UX designer.
Awesome.
And so I went to work for AT&T and we used some proprietary technology to develop the user interface for a product for like NTT of Japan. So my question for you is, what kind of technologies does a UX designer work for, or are there any common technologies that that thread throughout those different roles that are on the slide? Yeah,
so there are specific tools that tend to be more or less popular. I would say that, like, for us, process is more important than technology, really. Sort of the sort of capital D design process, design thinking that you hear companies like IDEO talk about a lot. Is something that we try to really use to work through problems. It's like a design and iteration process. So that to me is like the important part. We do use a number of tools. Probably the most common tool in the studio for designers right now is Figma. The user researchers obviously don't use design tools in the same way. They have their own processes and methodologies that they use to study and validate the things that we're working on. Okay. And then our software engineers, use software engineering tools. I will say that we try not to be dogmatic about like specific tooling, because one, it's always evolving and it's always changing. And we really just want people using the things that are most effective to get things that are great to our customers. So we have people that just write, HTML code and CSS, and that's how they do their design work, right? Like that's fine too. Whatever helps people get their ideas out of their brain and into our products the fastest, I think is the best. Cool.
And so my key question, what is it that you like most about working for Microsoft for you personally?
Yeah. So Shawn stole a bunch of the things I was going to say, so I'm gonna add a different one, which is I think one of the things I found here is that from the outside, Microsoft looks like this massive company, and it is. Like we have 130,000 employees or something like that. It also like kind of has this reputation as being a bit of a big bureaucracy, and that is also true to an extent. But one of the things that I've found in my work here is that if you have an idea, if you want to go try something, almost nobody will ever tell you no if the idea seems interesting. It doesn't have to be good. You don't have to be successful with it. Like it can be proved wrong. That's fine. But there's this space here that I've found that's just really, this is the thing that keeps me coming back to work every day, is that if I have something I want to try, if I have something that I think is going to make the world better for our customers, almost nobody will ever tell you no for something like that. And so like there's just this almost kind of entrepreneurial spirit that if you're willing to grab that spirit and run with it, you can accomplish a lot.
Nice. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time out, Rob, to share your experiences in design. I'm sure folks may have questions. So if you'll stick around for the panel discussion, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Yep. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, who is Arun Sacheti. So Arun, if you're ready.
Yep.
Let me turn off the spotlight.
Hi, my name is Arun. I'm a general manager within Bing, which is search and distribution org is what we call it internally. I run multimedia team, which is image and video search, as well as UHRS, which is the data platform which collects all the AI labels across worldwide for making our product better. I'm originally from India, Jaipur. I started my journey as a computer software engineer in India, worked over there for a year, moved to United States and worked in Bay Area for 3 years. And I was a classic like C++, Unix, hating Microsoft guy sitting in Bay Area, thought of Microsoft as an evil empire, a place I would never work for. Then one of my friends suggested me a position in Microsoft. So I thought, okay, there's no harm in going and interviewing. I'll just develop my interviewing skills and see close up what these guys are up to. I was like blown away by the interview process, how like methodical, how caring they were during the interview process. Went back to Bay Area, like chatted with my friends and evaluated my options. And then I thought it might as well try it for a couple of years and see how is it like, and moved to Seattle. Initially, like I'm pretty introvert guys. I would say like I would sit in a close in a corner when I have people who I don't know in the room. So I kind of initially feel intimidated by Microsoft, for first couple of months, then slowly became comfortable. But still, as I believe Shawn said, that my plan was to go back to Bay Area, to other startup or some other Bay Area company in 2 years. But here I am, like almost 21 years at Microsoft now. Initially, I did not like Seattle as well. Coming from California, sunny weather, beaches and all, Seattle was not the place to be in, which is at times quite rainy. But now the place I would like to retire would be Seattle, because all the beautiful outdoors and scenery it is around the whole city. I enjoy hiking, going for a bike ride or as such, and like taking a kayak and kayaking as such. So that way, it's really like very nice environment out here. I grew initially. I was a software engineer in Microsoft. Became a lead. Started in mentoring people, and then was given an opportunity to lead a team, and then slowly grew in as a software development manager. And then we just recently inherited a program management team as well. So I'm right now leading a multidisciplinary team of software engineers and program manager. The broader search org is what we call Bing, which is my manager's org, which has all the search product that you see when you type in a query in Bing and how the relevance work. So search is like pretty interesting problem. Like it is one of the leading edge of AI, I would say. Like it's almost been 15 years or so since search existed at the scale which we see today. And like most of the groundbreaking ML, deep learning, or distributed computing technologies are coming from the core search problem space. And then we also, as Rukmini also mentioned, we provide a lot of technologies and ideas to wider Microsoft, what you should see in the Azure Cloud Fabric, as well as other parts of Microsoft system. Like we contribute dedicatedly to Office AI space as well within the team. So that's pretty interesting problem that sitting in Bing search org or advertisement org, you can impact a wide variety of businesses in Microsoft, which is quite an interesting problem to be in. Specifically in my role, I lead the image, video search, and camera-based search, which itself is quite interesting and challenging problem. We do a lot of new ideas as well as growing the business as it stands right now. What makes interesting being in the search org when you're competing with Google, who is pretty entrenched, who has very wide distribution of the product, who has a lot more signals in AI, who has a lot more invested in terms of your computing or people resources, and you are sitting with like very like marginal resources or infrastructure, and still you are able to build competing product which users love to be in, which is quite rewarding and quite challenging because you need to work with your A game, with one of the smartest people in the industry to compete with a competition like Google. Like search is a very different org as compared to other Microsoft orgs where we are like the underdog. We like for longest time we used to be like negative in business, but now we are pretty profit making for Microsoft, and that makes it like difficult to when like stressful during the day, but it's never boring, as Rob also said, which we really like to be in the part of this team. Yep.
Quick question: what technology does your team utilize? Like, if I'm a software engineer and I join your team, what technologies would I?
So we use wide variety like C++, C#, Python, latest MapReduce technology, distributed computing infrastructure, latest and greatest in the AI space. TensorFlow, PyTorch, whatever is available in that space is what we use.
And then what is it that you personally like most about working for Microsoft?
What I like most is I can be authentic to myself. It has helped me be that, still being the introvert guy and being being surrounded by a lot of people who are like smarter than me and who still allows me to be really authentic for myself. And like I think as others also alluded, Microsoft has is not just about like making money or like growing the business year over year. There also has a conscious focus across all the product lines of how do we empower others to be others who are our partners, who are our consumers, and even employees to be to bring their A game and utilize technologies to be successful in whatever they are doing on a day-to-day basis. And that's what really intrigues me about Microsoft is we are like consciously working towards making a better place for everybody around us.
Excellent. Thank you, Arun. So with that, I'll ask that you hang on for the panel discussion and the Q&A.
Sure.
But then I'll go ahead and move on to our next speaker. So thank you for taking the time out to share your experiences.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So our next speaker is Den Raskovalov. So Den, if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Let me turn my camera on. Hi everyone. Really big pleasure to be part of this team and have an opportunity to have a discussion with all of you. So yeah, my name is Dan Raskovalov. I'm partner engineering manager working on Microsoft Maps. Originally, I'm from Yekaterinburg, Russia, and I don't know, like many others, I don't have a typical career trajectory. I mean, if you pay some attention, you will find that actually most correct career trajectory are completely not normal, not absolutely normal. So I always was fascinated by mathematics, and actually most of my kind of academic education happened also in field of quite abstract math. But actually, again, I mean, but basically back then there was just no opportunity to get a good education in computer science, in machine learning, in statistics, in NLP in Russia, and that's why it was kind of natural choice for me. But actually most of my kind of professional experience happened in the field of software engineering, software engineering management. So I was lucky to be one of the first kind of relevant engineers for Yandex, and Yandex is kind of Google of Russia. I mean, had been enjoying growth of the company, a lot of interesting challenges. I mean, you can imagine how hard it is for Microsoft to compete with Google, having only a fraction of resources. But you can imagine how hard it is fight with Google when you have a fraction of resources. But yeah, somehow we were able to keep up, make a game, keep and grow search market share back in Russia. But at certain point, I mean, I had a question, so what's next? And the year 2012, I decided that actually Microsoft is going to be my kind of next step, next challenge I'm taking. Since then, I've been working on a variety of projects at Microsoft, mostly also focused on different kind of search applications and relevance in different parts of the search stack. Currently, I'm working on Microsoft Maps, and I think it's kind of truly exciting. I mean, I always was also fascinated by maps. I can, when I think about it, I can remember.
I think you were muted by accident somehow.
No problem. Yeah, I still remember a lot of situations when, I mean, access to a high quality map was a life or death question to me. And every time when we actually ship now a new feature or new experience, data improvement, model improvement to Microsoft Maps, I'm trying to imagine people who can actually benefit from it. Every time when I get to an area without digital map, I realize how uncomfortable is this experience. So how I get used to this luxury of knowing where am I and how to get from point A to point B. I mean, the whole mission of kind of our Maps organization is empower people and organization everywhere to explore, navigate, and connect in the physical world. I personally, think about maps as a two-step game. Step number one is actually get, hundreds and thousands sometimes sources about maps. I mean, starting from maybe satellite imagery, you can imagine that there are kind of that any snapshot of our planet takes terabytes and terabytes of space, and ending up with really small sources, which maybe tell you about right zip codes in a small not so populated country. We integrate hundreds and thousands of different data sources, terabytes of data in one digital word representation. It's kind of step number one. Step number two, we want to build really cool and useful products from this digital representation. Obviously, our favorite, most important customer is Bing. So, that search is now kind of entrance to a lot of products about information. And when you search for places, for businesses, you will see basically map we created. But my personally favorite showcase for technology is Microsoft Flight Simulator. If you ever launched it, you know that when you basically, in this game, you see a real physical world. And this product is based on imagery we have, on 3D models for buildings all over the world, and also elevation maps. And again, highly encourage everyone to spend an hour of your life trying to flight in this using this game. It's really it's not an easy, and it's a really beautiful game, and it's based on, as I said, real world. And yeah, so again, I really believe that having a digital map for a certain place in the world unlocks a lot of new types of businesses, experiences, and I'm really excited to be part of a team which brings maps to the world. Thank you.
Yep. So quick question, how large is the Maps team? How many people?
Maps.org, we do have roughly about 400 engineers, data scientists, project managers, and as pretty much every team at Microsoft, we are scattered all over the world. So we do have people in US, in Serbia, in China, in Taiwan. And these days, you know how it works. When you talk to someone, you don't really know where he or she is physically. So
nice. And what is it that you like most about working for Microsoft?
I really like how strategic the company is. So if you, for example, just look on the history of a Bing, so yeah, it's almost 15-year, actually more than 15-year journey, and I mean it started like a small startup within the company. It got tremendous support from company management. It took billions and billions of investment to make, I mean, to grow this startup to a viable competitor of Google. To be honest, one of the, maybe the only competitor of Google in search space in the world. And I mean, eventually Bing became profitable, and now it's one of many multi-billion businesses. I mean, which Microsoft has. Actually, if you look on structure of Microsoft profits, you will see that Microsoft is actually one of few companies who were able to be successful in many areas, having multi-billion products. I mean, in gaming, in consumer products, obviously, in products which are available for governments, products available for businesses. So it's extremely diverse company, and also at the same point in time, we extremely strategic. So it's for many products take years and multi-billions to grow them into viable products, and Microsoft is one of the few companies in the world who can do that.
Excellent. Thank you for taking the time out to share your experiences.
Thank you.
I'll ask you to kind of hang on and maybe keep an eye on the chat for any questions that you might be able to answer specifically. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, but just paying attention to time, I want to make sure that you all, as candidates, if you have questions, make sure to ask your questions in the chat. That way, if we don't have time in the live Q&A, you can still have some conversations with the Microsoft team members that have been presenting. So if you have questions, feel free to use the chat, and I'll ask that the Microsoft team that's present, if you'll keep an eye on the chat and answer some of the questions as they come in. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is Bruce Sang. So Bruce, if you're ready.
Hi, Will. Yes, I'm ready. Thanks, Will. So it's my, hello everyone. It's my great pleasure to have this opportunity to have a conversation with HBCU Connect and the talents. So my name is Bruce Zhang. I'm a partner group R&D manager in Bing Ads. We are the economic engine to monetize the Bing traffic and also the third party, our partners. So my hometown is in Xi'an, China, and my college major is in computer science. So after I finished my college and master, I came to US to pursue a PhD in computer science. So my background when I was in school is on the image understanding and computer vision to kind of do the image retrieval. So I have been in Microsoft for about 8.5 years. So I joined in 2012. And I have been actually working in Bing Ads since I joined Microsoft. So I have taken several different roles before my current role. Mostly it's on the R&D, on the software engineer and engineering, and also the modeling on both the computer vision and natural language processing. So previously, before I joined Microsoft, I was in Yahoo Labs, also working on, so in Yahoo Labs, I worked on the image search, video search, before I transitioned into the advertising space to work on all kinds of different very cool advertising to monetize both search traffic and also the browser traffic. So today I also want to give you a quick introduction about what search advertising is and what problems and technologies we are using in this very kind of exciting area. So Will, can you go to the next one? Yeah. So first, search ads, as you know, you use the search engine every day, and our job in the Bing Ads is kind of a matchmaker. So we want to connect the user with advertisers. So the user comes to Bing and our partners like Yahoo, AOL, and they are looking for the answers to their questions. And based on their input query and also the kind of their behavior on our websites, we know what's their search intent. And based on that, we can show the relevant ads to them so that can help them to finish their kind of question pursuing. In the meantime, we can send these users to those advertiser websites so the user can become the customer of the advertiser. So to do this, we actually build a marketplace. Our goal is to serve the right ads to the right user at the right time in the right place. And by doing this, not only we're connecting the user with advertiser, we can also make kind of revenue from the user engagements with the ads. So based on both the click and the conversion, so we can make this as a very big business to power the free content. So when we connect the user, publisher, and advertiser, we provide both the publisher platform and advertiser platform. Publisher platform, we need to give the publisher the API so that they can call us. We can return ads based on their user profile and the queries. And they need to have a control to see what ads can be shown. And they need to see the reporting on how our search engine, our ads engine performance look like. And for advertisers, similarly, we also need to build the advertiser platform so that they can provide their ads, both the text ads, product ads, and into our system. So they need to manage their ads campaign, optimize their campaign, and we need to provide the reporting for them to show what's the ROI about their ads campaign and how the users behave on their websites. So this is quite a big ecosystem. And to support this ecosystem, actually there are a lot of technologies we build heavily depending on AI. Because as you can see, this is a real-time online serving. We need to make a very smart decision at less than 5 milliseconds. And all those things are need to be driven by data and AI. So next slide. So there are many problems in this making process. So first, we need to understand the user's query and the user's profile. So and also understand the advertiser, what products they provide, what service they provide. So this is based on NLP, the natural language processing. We need to do the query as categorization and do the rewriting, expansion, and how can we understand the semantic, and to do the very fine level, granular level understanding of each word in user's query and in advertiser the creatives. And on another big category is computer vision, because many of our ads are shopping ads. So they are products like on Amazon. So we have the product image. We need to do the image semantic understanding. And also we do the visual search, visual shopping to connect the kind of the similar products that the user is looking at. And also we need to understand very deeply on the models, brands, and their product attributes, color, size. So those all need to be very granular level understanding. So we use a lot of the computer vision technologies. And this is also a big system of the information retrieval. It's a search engine, as you can see. We have billions of ads. We need to return the most relevant top 5 ads to show to the user. So we use a lot of machine learning models in information retrieval, in the relevance modeling, the user response prediction, like a click prediction, conversion prediction. And to support different partners, we also need to distinguish the fraud supply. Some are like the bots traffic. We need to block them, so detect the fraud and on both the supply and the demand, the traffic and the advertiser side. And a big part in this search advertising is auction design. So we have many angles to have a different auction, the mechanism design to make it fair and more efficient. And as Rukmini side, we also need to do the causal machine learning to understand the cause. If we make some change, what's the impact, what's the result? So those depend on the counterfactor analysis platform. It's a huge, very data heavy pipeline and analysis platform. And the advertiser has a budget. We need to do a more effective budget smoothing to make sure their ads are shown continuously in a month. So all those things need AI and modeling. So we have a big team of the scientists, machine learning engineers, software engineers to build this together. And the one horizontal asset we need to build is a knowledge graph. So we call it a commercial knowledge graph. It needs to understand the brand, product attributes. So all those can be connected. And with information extraction and representation, we can support those 4 categories above the commercial graph. So next one, Will. So as you can see, it's basically advertising is AI and machine learning driving. And we have built a huge, very scalable system and the pipelines to develop all kinds of different models to do the user understanding, query understanding, advertiser understanding, then do the matching, relevance, user response prediction. So every components you can see use a lot of machine learning models. Currently in our any search, when you call our API, at least 200 machine learning models will be executed in less than 5 milliseconds. And this is, again, it's also a highly data-driven experimentation and business. So we run the online experiments, more than 1,800 experiments per month to do the A/B testing to figure out which model works better, which feature is driving more kind of performance for a user, for advertising. And we also run the huge offline experimentation platform. More than 4,000 experiments per month are run to decide if the model has a better chance to give us good results online. So this is a very exciting, but also a very challenging system, both in terms of scale and the complexity of the models. So next one, Will. So apart from the models and applied scientists, data scientists, we also hire a lot of software engineers, system engineers, because we need to build a very large scale, low latency, high availability systems. So in infrastructures. So here I just use the product ads infrastructure as an example. So we need to build the enterprise infrastructure like the merchant center to onboard the product ads. We also need to build the online information retrieval infrastructure to return the most relevant ones, and the data streaming to get the the real-time reporting, all the feedback loop get into in near real time, and the machine learning training, inference, both offline and online. So we use a lot of platforms and technologies, both in open source and also internal technologies. So as you can see, we heavily use Azure, and we also use a lot of open source like Spark, like Kafka. And the internal, we have Object Store, we have the OSearch, so which are the more kind of search infrastructure in Microsoft. And we use Java, C++, C#, Python, all those languages, and a huge scale in both the offline and online. So and a low latency. So this is a very high performing architecture and infrastructure we need to build. Also, our system is across the world. Currently, we are running on 14 markets, but by end of this June, we will running on 35 markets. So across the globe. So it's a really global ready technology and systems we need to build. And we also need to consider the cost to serve, to reduce the serving cost, to make our system more efficient and our business more efficient. So those are all very big challenges and needs the strong software engineers, data scientists, applied scientists to join us to work on these very interesting problems in these exciting areas. So Will, let's get back to you.
Excellent. So I got to ask you the question before I move to our next speaker. What is it that you like most about working for Microsoft?
I think Microsoft, as many speakers already said, is massive. So we have a very strong almost in every profession, we have very strong people, PM, product manager, program manager, software engineer, researcher, and applied scientist. So you can work on so many different things without a kind of a changing job. Internally, you have so many collaborations. We collaborate very closely with Microsoft Research. So there are strong researchers, and you can work on different areas because Microsoft supports so many different technology and products. So I just think it has the skill and space for everyone to excel with learning in your daily job. So that's very exciting.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing and for presenting to give us some details around you know what it is that your organization does and what the candidates can look forward to. So last but not least, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. So our next speaker is Hillary Mutizia. So Hillary, if you are ready.
Sure. So I'm Hillary Mutizia, originally from Kenya, born and raised in Nairobi. I came to the US for college, so I was at Harvard and came to Microsoft soon after. And just like Shawn, I was on the 2-year plan. It was like, oh, I'm only going to be at Microsoft for a short time, and then I'll go to grad school, and then I'll move back to Kenya. And the reason why I've been on a continual 2-year plan is I have found I always kept learning. There's always this calculus that I have to run in the back of my mind of, am I gaining more from being in industry versus being in academia? And it's amazing to see how much more industry has been outpacing academia in the period when I've been in the industry. So as a result, I've been at Microsoft for about 13 years. I've switched teams probably six times. And in that time, like, you know, this is again a testament to Microsoft's range. I've worked on compilers, I've worked on client software, I've worked on operating systems in Xbox and HoloLens, and I've worked on large-scale architecture in Azure and Bing. And there are very, very few companies where you can have this range of opportunities. So this kind of anticipates what I expect to be Will's question about, like, what do you like about working at Microsoft?
Yes.
There is a lot of range. As an engineer, you will never get bored. And in past roles, as I said, I worked in office. One of the most interesting opportunities is I actually worked on a startup where we were trying to envision how would we build Microsoft technology to really empower education scenarios. And it was very much a startup scenario. We had VC funding where we had to go to our vice presidents and appeal for funding for the next 3 months, the next 6 months. And we pivoted a couple of times on our project, and we built core technology that, you know, today in Teams, it's a core foundation of Teams. It's in Xbox and in Windows. And you got to do that while experiencing the risk of running a startup without the anxiety of I will not have a paycheck the next month. Right? You had the comfort of working in a large organization. So that's one of the things I really enjoy about Microsoft. And then most recently, my team right now, I'm in the news and feeds organization in WebXT. And for us, news and feeds is a mix of challenges. We power the experiences that show up when you open an Edge browser tab. You see news content inline. If you open up Windows, if you're an insider, you'll see a news tab on your taskbar. And our challenge is, how do we deliver to the user the most relevant content in the context that they're in? And that requires us to have very deep machine learning expertise. So we have folks who are working on understanding content and recommendation systems. In many ways, news is a separate and unique challenge compared to other recommendation systems. If you look at Netflix, for example, Netflix has a corpus of maybe hundreds of thousands of titles that they're recommending to millions of users. And the set of titles that are in Netflix doesn't change very often, maybe once a month, right? In the news context, we have millions of articles published every day, and we have hundreds of millions of users. And not only do the articles change, but the users' interests change as well. You can't simply say, oh, because somebody watched an action movie last month, they are likely to watch an action movie this month. No, it's like if somebody read an article about event X, maybe they don't need an article about event X anymore. If it was the Super Bowl is no longer relevant a week after, right? And so understanding industry trends, user trends, market trends, etc., is a very unique space, and it changes what we think of as natural language processing and recommendation algorithms. And so there's a portion of my team that does that. Another portion of my team is in the business of just serving requests at scale. And it's a pure engineering challenge where we are seeing hundreds of thousands of requests per second, and we need to be able to serve a response within tens of milliseconds. So right now, our 99th percentile response time is in the order of 80 milliseconds. And so to be able to do that, we're running deep algorithms for recommendation and running at a global scale. We are purely built on Azure, so we need to make sure we are geo-redundant. We can do failovers if particular regions are unavailable, etc. It's a very, very fascinating distributed systems problem, where when you look at distributed systems, you assume failure is going to happen, right? It's not an environment where you can assume everything is going to work. And so I enjoy this kind of challenge, and I think it's a really interesting space to be in. And pivoting back a little bit to the machine learning space, when it comes to news, if you look at our competitors or kind of partners, in the past, it's been, people have looked at recommendation as, we want to show you content that is similar to content you've consumed in the past. And that's interesting. But when it comes to news, where we as a distribution platform are responsible for what people see on a day-to-day basis, it is irresponsible for us to just show people things that align with their interests. We have to also show them things that are true, that may be different from what they thought was true before. So how do you balance the business need of, I want to maximize number of clicks on my site by showing people things they're likely to click on, versus I actually have a social responsibility to show the true nature of things that may be different from what people think about, and I have to bust people out of their bubble. And I think it's very interesting that Microsoft has empowered us to research these problems and to really go deep and understand them. And there are whole groups working on this, and we are plugged into that space. So I'm quite excited about the kind of challenges that we work on news and feeds.
Excellent. Hillary, I want to thank you for taking the time out to share your experiences and also to join us. So typically our events are an hour and a half. So and I try to stay on topic with the event. So we're not, based on the number of people that have volunteered their time from the WebXT team to share their experiences, what I tried to do is ask questions from each team member and also have the candidates engage in the chat. So what I like to do, just to stay on timing, is to kind of give a last word, starting with Rukmini, if you'll give us sort of a last word and maybe any advice for the candidates as they plan to interview for the team.
Yeah, so if you remember, I said, product focused, customer obsessed, empathetic, so when you are at the interview, ask clarifying questions, ask about, if you don't understand something, ask multiple questions and figure out how to get the question in your space. Express, how you would, if you hear a question, how it would work for a user or how would it work for a customer. So bring out those aspects of you that are not just your technology aspects, but also the elements of you that care about the customer success and that care about how this product will work. So that's my advice for you. Ask a lot of questions. It's not just that you're being interviewed, you're also interviewing Microsoft.
Excellent. Thank you. So always when we do these events, I also want to let folks know about next steps. So Jesse, do you want me to kind of run over that real quick, or do you want to jump on?
Yeah, I can kind of go through it real quick. So as I had mentioned in the chat window, it's a 3-step process. We'll start reaching out to candidates over the next couple of days. But basically 3 steps. First step will be an HR phone screen with myself. Second step will be a technical phone screen with a member from the team. And then folks who pass the technical phone screen will move on to a virtual final round interview at a date to be determined. So 3-step process. Okay,
and so what I'm going to do for all the candidates that have joined the call today, I will send out not only a copy of the video from this presentation from the WebXT team, I will also send you the interview interest form so that it's a very easy form to fill out. Basically, the results of that form go to Jesse so that he can select folks for phone screens. But you'll need to fill out that form if you would like to interview with the WebXT team. All right, and so you can look for that email from me. So make sure to keep an eye on your inbox for that because I'm going to send it out right after this meeting. So with that, just to stay on time, I wanted to thank the Microsoft WebXT team for taking the time out to present not only yourselves and your backgrounds and experiences, but also to thank you for sharing your opportunities with our community. And then for all of the candidates, thank you for taking the time out to jump on this call and to learn more and participate, in these opportunities with Microsoft. So with that, like I said, appreciate everyone coming. Hope you got a lot out of this meeting, and that's all I had.
Thank you, Will. I think I want to really thank you for shepherding the session. We had a lot of speakers. And you did a great job of, making us all look human as we went through our content.
My pleasure.
Yes. Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for organizing this event. Yeah, very
my pleasure.
helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.